Brace yourself and turn your phone into silent mode as we are about to welcome our first keynote speakers. And to begin with, we will explore the biggest shifts shaping the future of marketing leadership, the rise of AI-native companies. This keynote will look at how AI can move beyond experimentation and become part of the way that teams work, decide, and measure what truly matters. And please join me in welcoming Mr. Binu Jacob, Chairman and CEO of Nestle Vietnam. With his keynote, Marketing in the Age of AI Natives. Please welcome.
Good morning. Before I start, I have a fairly unusual question for you. How many of you sitting in this room believe in the existence of UFOs and life outside our planet? Wow, that's much more than I expected. About 70% of people in the room actually believe that UFOs and life outside the planet exists. And I have to be honest, when I was 11 years old, I swear I saw a UFO. Nobody believed me. So much so that I made a sketch. I sent it to the Indian Space Research Organization, but of course they didn't reply. Today, you can debate whether life outside our planet exists or not. But I'm not here to debate with you about that. I'm here to tell you that there is absolutely one thing that there is no debate about. And that is, there is something fundamentally happening on our planet today that is transforming everything we do. You all know what it is. It's AI. And it's transforming every single industry, every single job. Unless you're a grave digger, or a food truck chef, or maybe a nurse in a hospital, chances are AI will disrupt the work that you do. Now, a few months back, a colleague of mine who used to report to me is now the CMO of a company in the US. She sent me a text message. It said, I think I need to forget almost everything that made me successful in the last 20 years. Now, when I saw this, it just made me reflect, because it's very unusual for someone to send a message like this. She wasn't having a breakdown. On the contrary, she was probably having her clearest moment in her life. And she realized that there is something fundamental that would completely transform her role as a CMO. And she's not alone. When Gartner did this study, they found that 65% of marketers, especially CMOs, believed that a fundamental shift was happening to their roles. A fundamental shift, not just a small change that AI is going to quickly fine-tune their jobs, but a fundamental shift. But here's the irony. Only 32% of them believed that they themselves needed to adapt to this new reality. Only 32%, I'm sure none of the 32%, all the 32% are sitting in this room. But the gap between knowing that a fundamental shift is happening and thinking that it doesn't apply to you, that's the gap that ends careers. Not suddenly, but slowly but surely taking you to a state of irrelevance. Now the question is why? Why is it that such smart, knowledgeable, experienced marketers think that AI is not so relevant to them? Why? Because fundamentally, most people think that all that AI can do today is to make things more efficient and more productive. So the thinking is it's all about speed. It's about efficiency, but that's it. But the truth is, it's much deeper than that. Today, you can argue that a CMO's job is pretty much an operator. Somebody who looks at campaigns, approves it, manages agencies, looks for the KPIs, tracks it, perhaps, approves briefs, things like that. That's an operator job. Tomorrow, the role of a CMO will become more of an orchestrator or an architect, designing and governing systems, managing multiple AI agents, transforming workflows, and letting sometimes work get done autonomously. That's a very different skill set. Very different from what CMOs have today. Less of an operator, more of an architect. Less controlling the outcomes, but more designing systems that make the outcomes better. Now at Nestle, we have been on this path for a while. Today, over 100,000 people inside the company actively use AI. And we've given licenses to just about anyone, paid enterprise licenses to anybody in the company who has a laptop. So as a result, we have millions of prompts every month. And the key thing is we've moved away from just tracking adoption to tracking intensity. How much are they using? Not just are they using the tool, yes or no. So marketers are moving into this new realm where AI is no longer sitting on the sidelines. It's now come to the center of marketing. Half the story you can understand through the numbers. More than $100 billion of ad spend will go through AI in the next 2 years. But that's only half the story. The other half of the story is really about the capability shifts that are required to make this transformation. Let me start with one fundamental shift that's happening. I'm sure most of you would have probably experienced it to some extent, and that's search. So search, till now, was all about giving you links. You search for something, Google gives you a lot of links, you click on those links, and then you decide what to do. Today, search is about answers. It's not the links anymore. It's curated answers. Before, search was about making decisions through the links, which means that decisions are made after the links. Today, increasingly, more and more, decisions are made before somebody clicks on the link. And the click is usually a sign that they've taken the decision and they're ready to execute. That's a fundamental shift. The way to think about it is, in the past, brands used to think the way to win in search is it based on your search rankings and if you come up on the search page. Today, for a brand, winning in search means winning in the answer. Inside the answer, you've got to win. So we're moving away from what we all know as SEO to increasingly what people call GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. This one we know. Let me take an example from the baby milk industry that we play in, something that is close to our hearts. Imagine you're a mother and you want to know what formula milk would be best for my baby who is digestive issues. So in the past, the same mom would have got a list of links from multiple brands. She would have had to go through her own search to figure out what would be the best. And for brands it was easy. You could buy search to get to the top. But today, if your brand is not in the answer that AI is generating, fundamentally that means you are not going to be considered at all. At all. That's a fundamental change in how marketers should be looking at this. It's a huge risk if your brand is not mentioned. And typically, sometimes you may only find one brand there. The question is, how do you get there? How does your brand get into that? That requires a very big change in matters. How the content design is done. You have to rethink everything. The content design that was made to help in the old SEO will no longer help us today. You have to rethink this completely. And we've seen it ourselves when we were number one on brand rankings in Google before, and then we did it on AI search. We were not number one. We were number 3. And that shocked us. Which meant you have to relook at everything we do, the content design. Which brings us to the next big shift that's happening, agentic marketing. Now, I'm sure many of you have heard of the concept of human in the loop. That's where AI is today. AI, the machine helps generate options, but at the end, it's the human that takes the call, that takes the decision. The machine does its work, and then it waits. It waits for the human to say, okay, tell me what next. That's human in the loop. But increasingly, we're going to a scenario where the human will no longer be in the loop. The human may be on the loop. And what do I mean by that? The machine will now be able to do everything that humans are doing today, with one exception. The judgment. And that judgment will be made by the human sitting above. The human will tell the machine what to do, search, optimize, take the decision, execute. The whole thing will be done autonomously. But that doesn't mean the role. Okay, I'm back. The human on the loop essentially is what I was saying is it's not that the role of the human is going to go away. The human's role will get elevated, sits on top, and governs what the machine will do, rather than instruct every single time what the machine has to do. Now, which brings us to probably an even more interesting topic. Your next most important consumer is not what you may think. Your next most important consumer may not even be you. Think about it. Today, consumer makes a request, AI gives some options, and then you decide. Think of a scenario where you're making a holiday planning. So till recently, most of us would have gone to multiple apps, looked at various hotels, various airlines, various options of flights. You would have had 10, 15 different options, and then finally you would choose one. But imagine a scenario where you can tell your agent, book my holiday to Dalang, weekend holiday, Friday to Sunday, morning flight, evening flight, 5-star hotel, 5 million US, by the beach. That's it. The whole thing gets executed by AI. All it tells you is hotel, flight, itinerary, done. Just think about this. The decision is no longer yours. Which hotel you're staying in, which flight you're taking, is not your decision anymore. It's a decision made for you based on your preferences. What does that mean for marketers? When we talk about AI, the word that we often use is AI transformation. I'm going to transform it. The reality is,
when you talk about transformation, most of us are actually talking adoption. We're starting to use it. Transformation is completely redesigning the systems, the work processes, making it much, much better. And that's a much harder thing to do. Believe me, we are still grappling with it. So transformation sounds easy, but it's very, very complicated. So, as a marketer, what do? I keep things very simple. First and foremost is build your literacy. If you're a CMO or a marketing manager leading teams, build your own literacy, not just your teams. Because if you cannot assess the output coming from AI, then you already become irrelevant. Second is create AI as a default option. I know a lot of you sitting in the Zoom are playing with it, experimenting with it, but I would urge you, pick a few workflows that you own and fundamentally let AI do that job for you. Not just experiment with it, make it a natural habit. Last but not the least, start measuring intensity. Don't just check how many people in your team are using the tool. Check how many decisions are being made because of that tool. That's when the big shift happens. Just one serious reminder though, but it's a very, very important one. Speed without judgment is just noise moving faster. This is probably the most important line from my session today. Speed without judgment is just noise moving faster. Now AI can do things incredibly fast. But if you don't keep the pace of the quality of the work, the judgment, the pace that only you can bring, if that doesn't step up, then you are just scaling up mediocrity. It's not going to transform the work. Which is why AI still needs you. Many of you know this example from Vogue. Last holiday campaign that attracted a lot of negative reactions. Why? The problem is not AI. The problem is the human behind the AI giving the right brief for the AI to work on. And I think we owe a lot to Vogue because we learned a lot from this example of what not to do and how to treat AI. But at the same time, I don't want to end this session by giving you the impression that everything in the future is going to be AI and there is no role for anything else or anything else. The fact of the matter is, all this agility makes sense, but it only makes sense with the human instinct. The importance of catching trends early, using your own gut feel, and understanding the human emotions and underlying insights behind it is more important today than ever. I would argue that it's going to get even more important. Why? Because a lot of the execution will be automated. A lot of the outputs will start looking similar. The differentiation is going to come from this human instinct. So as a marketer, that role you simply cannot outsource. Let me share this example from KitKat that brings it to life.
We can confirm that 12 tons of KitKat products were stolen while in transit.
We're working closely with local authorities to investigate.
A major chocolate heist.
Theft that is getting worldwide attention. A chocolate bars has disappeared.
Feels like the premise of a heist movie written by a fourth grader or Willy Wonka. The great KitKat heist is blown up all over social media.
The whole internet is buzzing right now trying to figure out if this is real, and thousands of memes are going viral. KitKat is like owning the whole story.
This morning, KitKat wants candy lovers to give them a break and help them track down stolen candy bars.
The company's creating a stolen KitKat tracker.
Stolen KitKat tracker.
Stolen candy tracker to scan barcodes to help them find the stolen chocolate.
You can check by entering the 8-digit batch
On
number.
the back of your candy bar to determine if your bar is from that missing batch.
This KitKat wasn't stolen. Keep searching and help us write in the search by sharing.
They target program into participation. That's a great way to capture.
What started as a crime story just turned into one of the most genius marketing moments. You got people checking their candy, posting it online, news covering it, social media running wild, and you can't buy that kind of engagement.
people who are actually shopping right now for chocolate. And that is a recipe for marketing that actually moves the needle.
Capitalizing on moments, using your human instinct, taking some risks, and having the courage to do things still matter in today's market. So coming back to my CMO friend who sent me that message, I sent her back a text saying let's catch up for a Teams call. And we did. And during the call I realized that actually she hadn't really forgotten what it made her successful. It wasn't about that. That would have been the wrong conclusion. But what she did was she unlearned a lot of the processes that the company was doing in the past that slowed things down, the slow approvals, questioning things the way it was done before simply because that was how it was done before. She unlearned all of that. But at the same time, she kept her judgment, her instincts, her taste. And today, she hasn't become less of a CEO. She became an AI native one. So before I leave the stage, I just have one question for you. How many of you sitting in this room are using AI to do old marketing faster? Or are you actually thinking of leveraging AI to find a new way of marketing? Think about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jacob, and please remain on the stage. Thank you so much. What a great presentation, and I must say, I still wonder what happened to that Kit Kat truck. Did people find it? I thought it was a joke at first, so I kind of scrolled because I thought it was fake news or something, but then I never knew what happened to the Kit Kat truck. Do we have an answer to that? Do I need to? But anyways, great presentations. And please come back to the center of the stage to receive tokens of appreciation and flowers from